Welcome. Good morning. Welcome to the San Mateo County Planning Commission meeting of October 13, 2021. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gupta?
Here.
Commissioner Santa Cruz? Oh, I don't think I saw Cruz. Right. Commissioner Hansen?
Here.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Here.
Chair Ketchum?
Here.
With Commissioner Santa Cruz is absent, and staff is represented by Monowitz Fox and with help with Montes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is oral communications. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on any subject that is not on today's agenda. Speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. First, staff will explain how the public comment process works for our remote meetings.
For those attending the meeting on the Zoom video conference, we will use the raised hand feature to organize any public comments. During the public comment period and for each item on the regular agenda, I will ask those of the public who wish to comment to click the raised hand feature to raise your hand to speak on that agenda item. For those joining by phone, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. Please note that members of the public must wait for my prompt in connection with each agenda item before using the raised hand function. For example, you cannot raise your hand at the beginning of the meeting for an agenda item that is later in the meeting. When you hear your name called, I will prompt you to unmute your microphone and your account and begin speaking. Let me see. Let's take a look if we have any. What if we do the right raise hands now? No hands raised there.
Okay, seeing no requests to speak, if there are no objections, we will close oral communications and move on to the consent agenda, which includes the revised minutes of September 22, 2021, and a resolution concerning remote meetings under the Brown Act. May we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gupta?
Aye.
Commissioner Hansen?
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Aye.
Chair Ketchum?
Aye.
Thank
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the regular agenda. Staff will introduce item which is numbered 3.
Correct. Owner, Zhu Fang, applicant, Fang Huang, file number PLN 2020-00402, location 180 Lakeview Way, and our planner right now is Sonal, and she's new to our team, so welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sonal Agarwal, and I will be introducing item number 1 today. And I will start sharing my screen right now. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me start. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is PLN 2020-00402. The property is located on 180 Lakeview Way, Emerald Lake Hills. This project is a design review application, non-conforming use permit, and fence height exception to add 962 square feet, 3-car attached garage, and 1,299 square feet first and second story addition to a non-conforming single-family residence with a 9-foot 1-inch front setback on a 21,728 square feet parcel. A non-conforming use permit is required to allow major addition to a non-conforming house. The house is non-conforming with respect to the front setback. The required front setback is 20 feet and the existing front setback of the house is 9 foot 1 inch. A use permit is required to allow 3 detached accessory buildings where 1 is the maximum and a 1-foot right setback where 3 feet is the minimum. A fence height exception is also sought to maintain the existing 6-foot tall fence in the front yard. Here in this picture, you can see the location of the property. It is an interior lot located in Emerald Lake Hills, and it is surrounded by many trees. The next slide here shows the site plan and the front setback, which is 9 feet 1 inches. The house, as I said, is non-conforming only with respect to the front setback. The required front setback is 20 feet, and the existing front setback is 9 feet 1 inches. There are 3 trees proposed to be removed, and these are removed because they are in the pad of the construction. And there is a separate 800 square feet ADU proposed in the rear of the property. These pictures show the rear of the house and also 2 trees which are being removed. There's one 18 inches diameter cedar, 12 inches diameter redwood, and 8 and 9 inches and 11 inches buckeye that are removed. The addition will happen behind the house as shown in the front picture. There are 2 patios which will be extended out. The applicant has also shown the location of replacement tree. A total of 9 replacement trees in 5-gallon size will be planted. And this site plan shows the location of those replacement trees. Here you can see the addition happening behind the house. The existing house is 2,432 square feet. The addition, including the attached garage, will be 2,261 square feet. And basically on the first floor, the living room is extended. On the second floor, a new master bedroom, extension of the master bath, and a new walk-in closet is proposed. And the decks are also extended. And these 2 pictures show the front and the rear of the house. This is the floor plan of the ground floor, which is also the second floor as the side slopes from front to back. Here you can see the new primary bedroom that is being proposed, a new walk-in closet and new upper deck. The primary bathroom is also extended. The second plan here shows the first floor plan, which is also the lower floor plan. In this picture, you can see the dining room being extended and a new jacuzzi and bath proposed on the first floor. This is the floor plan of the attached garage. There will be a new 3-car garage and a storage room beneath the house. This elevation shows the existing and the proposed addition. The existing house has sloping roof, whereas the proposed addition will have a flat roof. The existing house also has wood siding, whereas the proposed addition will have a new smooth stucco siding and wooden slats. Here is the rendering of the house. As you can see, the different material that are proposed on the house. The project was heard on the design review meeting on August 10th. The DRO supported the project with a few changes and asked the applicant to use a singular material for the whole house. The applicant changed the roof material and the color of the siding, which was reviewed and approved by DRO. And as you can see in this image, there will be a gray color standing seam metal roof, which will be used for the whole house. The front of the house will have wood siding, whereas the rear will have stucco siding. The addition on the jacuzzi and the master bathroom will have timber slats wall cladding, and the deck will have wooden plank. Here are few renderings. So this is the same angle of the house with the rendering, and as you can see, the different materials that will be applied to this house can be clearly seen in this picture. Here is another rendering of the house from a different angle. It shows the 3-car attached garage, the deck extension, and the jacuzzi and master bath and closet. Here is another rendering of the house from a different angle. And in this rendering, you can see the front of the house, which has wood siding, and the rear of the house, which has stucco, and also the wood slats that will go on the addition. This is the rendering from the driveway side of the house. Here's one more rendering which shows the details in details clearly. So the existing property also has 4 detached accessory structures. The detached accessory structure shed 1 was approved through PLN 2000-00607. This is the existing 1-car detached garage, and it is also used as workshop currently. There is another detached garage shed 2. This was present in the assessor's report from 1952. This shed is actually located at 1 foot side setback, whereas 3 feet minimum is required. So the use permit is sought for that as well. This shed is used as a storage shed. There is another shed 3, which is located at 67 feet 7 inches from the front property line. So it is located in the front 45% of the lot. And this shed is currently used as a garden storage shed. It also has some utilities and electrical lines. However, to maintain close compliance with the regulations and section 6410 and 6411B, staff recommends that the applicant retains only 2 detached accessory structures and get rid of this detached structure 3. There is another and 4th detached structure, which is a dog house, shed 4, located in the front of the property. And applicant has agreed to remove that detached structure before the building final. So as I mentioned before, based on section 6410 of the zoning code, 1 detached accessory structure is allowed on the parcel. The existing detached garage is not counted towards parking, and therefore it is counted towards the allowed limit. The use permit is requested for 3 detached structures 1, 2, and 3. However, to maintain close compliance with section 6410 and 6411B, staff supports retaining only 2 detached structures, shed 1 and 2. And the staff also asked applicant to pull building permit for all detached accessory structures. And a condition of approval had been added to the staff report for that. The 4th thing that is sought for this project is fence height exception for the existing 6-foot tall fence in the front setback. The existing street has predominantly 6-foot tall fence along Lakeview Way. The existing fence was also reviewed by Department of Public Works, and no concerns were raised for keeping the fence. The existing fence also jogs down towards the slope, and at certain places it is 6 feet, as you can see here, and then it jogs down to 5 feet as it slopes down. So the project is in compliance with most of the zoning regulation. The only things that are not in compliance are the front setback, the fence height, and accessory structure, number of accessory structure. However, staff feels that findings could be made to support the non-conforming use permit and use permit regulation and fence height regulations findings. And the project complies with general plan, zoning regulation, and design review regulations. This project is exempt from CEQA under section 15301, class 1. Finally, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve design review, non-conforming use permit, and fence height exception for PLN 2020-0402, subject to attached findings at attachment A in the staff report. That concludes my staff's presentation, and I will be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Do commissioners have questions for staff? Commissioner Gupta.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Agarwal, that was a very informative presentation. I really liked your report. I liked how you had kind of interspersed some of the sketches of the property so that as I was reading it, I didn't have to flip back to the attachments. So that was very helpful to me. Thank you. So my question, I really don't have any concerning questions, just more clarification. So how is it determined that the second floor is the ground floor? What is the criteria for using that terminology?
So basically, the site is actually sloping from front to back. And as you enter in the house, you are actually on, I would call that as second floor, because the master bedroom, when you look at the elevation from the rear, you will feel that the master bedroom and bathroom is on the second floor, whereas from the front, it is actually the ground floor or the floor plan where you enter. So basically, I did call out those first and second based on the rear elevation and also from how you will approach it from the front.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little kind of confusing when you look at the renderings and second floor, ground floor. That's a little confusing, but I get it. Okay, thank you. So I don't really have any further questions. Were there any comments from the neighbors?
Yeah, there were two comments from the neighbors, and they were concerned about the trees being removed. But at the design review meeting, the design review officer explained that these trees are being removed because they're in the pad of construction. And so also the concern were related to like too many exceptions are being sought. So the design review officer was able to clarify that the exception is not sought for everything. It is just sought for the non-conforming house, and the house is non-conforming only with respect to the front setback.
Okay, okay. So yeah, so I did notice that they are not building anything more into those setbacks, which
Yes.
are being, right, which are non-conforming. So, okay, thank you. At this time, that's all I have.
Commissioner Hanson.
Well, good morning. Again, thank you for a very nice write-up, and I have some minor questions. When I was reading the Arborist report, I realized I was making some big assumptions of how to read it, and I want to read it correctly. So to give you one of my two examples, it talks about trees being a fine specimen. And there's three ways for me to read that fine. You know, fine as in fine wine, which is very good, or fine as when you're rating coins or stamps, which means average, or when my loving wife says fine, I'm dead meat. So I'm trying to figure out what does fine mean. And if you could help me there.
Can you please point out where in the report you have read fine specimen, and I can actually look in the Arborist report and see what that actually meant.
I only have a digital, and I would have to take down my screen to find it. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me look into this question. I have the Arborist report with me, and I will get back to you on that.
Yeah. The second thing is, when I've been reading these Arborist reports for nearly a decade, and I realized, you know, they're all a scale from 0 to 100. There's never 100. And they're all kind of bunched around the 50, 60, 70 range. And so when we do, are these ranges a bell-shaped curve? Or is it the other type of grading system, which is like in school where, you know, you check off enough boxes correctly, you become an A, regardless of how much you know anything, or, you know, it's everybody can become an A student, whereas in the bell-shaped curve, everybody centers around the center. And I was wondering, when I see these numbers, what does that mean?
So usually with Arborist report, the arborist should have explained the ratings terminology, like how he is rating. And I can check in the Arborist report and see if it is defined for this project or not. But usually whenever an arborist is writing the report, he should be clarifying those details before he
I
starts
saw the
rating.
criteria, but it doesn't mean, are we grading around a bell-shaped curve, or are we grading out first to the post type thing? And I just try to, for future reference, understanding how this things work, because I either almost all the trees in San Mateo County are average, or all the trees in San Mateo County are, you know, if I came home with a grade of 70% all the time from school, you know, below average. And therefore something should be fixed. And going forward, I would like to know how to read this. So I did not expect you to have an answer today, really. But if you knew, I would have been happy to know. That was the only question I had.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have an answer right now. I might have to also look into the report and probably do some digging to provide you that information, but I will look into that and get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Let me see. Oh, I am on. Yeah, just a quick question on the fence. Are there more 6-foot fences along that area? With regards to, like, you know, I mean, we're asking for an exception here for the 6-foot fence.
So
is this consistent? Yeah.
Basically, when you drive on the road, there are properties which have their rear yard facing Lakeview Bay, and those properties have 6-foot tall fences. So, so basically, when you drive along that road, you will see that there's a continuation of a lot of these fences along Lakeview Bay. So I would say yes, a few properties have that.
Okay, so this 6-foot fence would not necessarily look out of place.
Yes.
In regards to the neighborhood.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. I don't have any questions at this point. Does the applicant wish to speak? You may have 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Every commissioner. My name is Joe. I'm the owner of 180 Lakeview Way. And thank you, Sona, for making an amazing presentation for our house. I just wanted to speak up for one of the shed that the design review officer said we should not keep. I just wanted to show some information here. I'm going to share my screen. See. Oh. Sorry, 1 second. It's not allowing.
Yeah,
me.
you actually can't share unless I take the timer down. So I can put the timer on my end if you have a slide to show. Hold on.
Okay. I mean, everything was in the staff report already. So basically, this is shed number 3, which is the smaller shed, right? It shows less than 100 square feet. We are trying to keep it for the following reasons. All these 3 sheds are over 40 years old, and it was built into the house. It was well established. So you can see the shed, the back of that shed is actually part of the neighbor fence. So tearing down may involving redoing all the sheds and causing a lot of neighbor issues. And also the way the electricity works is the main panel has a set panel, goes to the shed number 3, and then goes to the shed number 2, and then goes to the garage. Everything was built underground. Yeah, it had a major electrical permit back 20 years ago. So taking it down may involve us redoing everything for the electricity. And also you can see the main house was sitting on the south of the lot. So we do need some kind of a shed in the middle of the yard for utilities. This shed is actually well established for irrigation system and landscaping timers. You can see I think I provided all the pictures for that. So it has the irrigation controllers, timers in that shed. So tearing down, we need to find another way to put those things, and everything was underground. So it's gonna involve a lot of changing throughout the whole yard to find out what exactly those were. Like we have no idea, right? So it's a lot of work for us to tear this shed down. So we were wondering if there's a way we can keep that shed. So that's all I have for the statement.
Okay, thank you. The commissioners have questions for the owner applicant. We'll start with Commissioner Gupta.
So how, this is a general question. So how do we address the concern that applicant has about not removing this shed number 3, right? That's the one, Mr. Fang, you are referring to?
Yes.
Right. Is there, I don't know who will, can respond to that?
So basically for this use permit, they are seeking use permit for 3 detached accessory structures. And if the planning commission thinks that they can keep that shed, then it is still part of use permit, and it is up to them, up to the commission to support or deny the structure. So use permit, like the application type will still be a use permit application to retain that structure.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Fang, I haven't seen any pictures of what is inside that shed.
It's actually in the bottom of the staff report. I showed all the electrical sub-panels, the irrigation controllers, and the landscaping timers, and also provided a picture showing the shed is actually part of the fence. Sona, can you verify?
Yeah, I can share my screen. I have that here. So let me share my screen and I can show that information.
Okay.
So this is the shed 3 that we are talking about. This is the existing shed 3, and here is the picture of the utilities. Like this, these are the utilities that are inside the shed.
The pictures are quite small.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, can you blow it up?
Okay. Is it fine now?
No.
No.
Okay.
I think the picture is probably opening up in another screen.
Is it okay now?
No.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
we see all the different images, maybe 20 or so on one
Okay,
screen.
okay, maybe I should share it again. Give me a second.
Okay, while we are looking at it, is the shed needs to be reinforced in any way? Since Mr. Fang said that it was, what, 20 years old, 40 years old?
I mean, if there's a requirement, we don't mind reinforce the shed.
But
But
right now it's holding fine.
It's holding fine, yeah. It doesn't look good. It's a very old shed, but we already have neighbor issues. We don't want to cause more problems. And you can see that this electric panel was actually coming from underground. So taking it out, we probably have to rerun the sub panel from the main house. So I'm on the electrician, so I don't know how it works. And also we need to find the irrigation. You can see the actual irrigation system was right next to the outside of the shed. So we don't really have a good place in the middle of the yard to control all of these.
Are you guys able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes, it's good, Sona. So this box on the right side of the panel is the controller for your irrigation.
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Right.
Yeah. And so there's another picture for the landscape light, timers. So we have tons of landscape light. So you was actually, and also it feeds the power to our backyard. So we are actually using the backyard as an entry point of our house. We're not using 180 Lakeview Way. So this shed actually feeds the power all the way to the backyard, the front gate for the power, for the light, everything.
Okay. And is there a separate power panel and irrigation control for closer to the home? With
we actually don't have one closer to the home. There's one in the garage. So we actually have 3 irrigation systems, one controlled by the shed and one controlled by the garage.
So by garage, you mean that shed number 1, which we
the
are
shed,
doing?
the shed
Okay.
number 1. Yep.
Okay. Mhm. But the more I look at this shed 3, I don't know, does it meet the word I'm looking for is it, I don't think certified is the right word, but it looks kind of kludgy to me.
It's non-conforming both because of the number of sheds and also because of its proximity to the property line. I believe, is that correct, Sanal? It does not meet setback
correct.
requirements.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the inside of it. Outside may be non-conforming or its location may be non-conforming. But even the inside, the wires running back and forth, shouldn't it be kind of properly done?
So staff was not able to actually find any building permit associated with the work, like the electrical work done in all of these sheds, even if the planning applications were pulled for shed number 1. So basically for anything that is being retained on the site with respect to the sheds, they have to pull proper building permits for these sheds.
And that may involve like redoing some of the electrical work?
That may be a possibility,
And
yes.
so there was a electric permit back in 2000, right? That's at the time of the planning.
So
Planning
so the 2000 application was the planning application for shed 1, but I was not able to see any associated building permit. So my understanding is that the planning permit was pulled, but the associated building permit was not pulled. But if you have records of that building permit, then yeah, please provide that, because I was not able to find that in our system.
Yeah, hello everyone. Morning, everyone. So my name is Juan. So I'm the project architect for this project with my. If you guys can bring my business partner Peter Sun, he is also actually at the attend this Zoom meeting. So for this shed, we take a look at everything. So at this stage, at the next stage, at the building permit, we actually can bring this shed condition into compliance, up to code. So that will not be a problem.
Okay. But is this shed also, as Director Monovitz said, is not in compliance? In what sense is it not in compliance? Is it too close to the property line?
So basically for detached accessory structures, they have to be located in the rear 50% of the lot. This shed is actually located at 47% of the lot. So it's still in the back, but it's not in the rear 50%. And then because only one existing detached accessory structure is allowed, and the number right now would be 3 with if we add this structure. So there are two exceptions being sought for for use permit.
Okay.
Just trying to clarify this item. So no, so when we take at the length of the site from the front from the front to the back, the whole length, then we subdivide by 50 over the whole site. Then this shed is actually within the boundary of the 50% of the rear of this site. But so if you actually but I saw you actually taking the right-hand side, the fence length. I think that is short, but what we are measuring is the average whole site, the average width, then take it 50. Then this shed is actually within the requirement.
Okay,
that-
so
yeah.
which measurement? Because the whole shed has to be after the 50% line. So if
Yeah.
it still sits on the 50%, then it is still in the front 50%. So
No,
if
it's
you-
at the back. It's at the back 50. So what we did is we take the average of the width of the whole site. Then it's hard. Then we drew a line to connect the site from the front to the back, then find the middle point. Then this shed is actually belong to the rear part of this 50% rule.
Okay. Do you have an image that
Yeah.
you can share? Yeah.
We have image how to how to share this. Yeah, I'm on my phone.
Yeah, we don't have to take up the commissioner's time with this, but it's essentially, it's in the rear 50% if you look at the width of the lot in average. But if Ms. Agarwal's measurement is correct, taking only the right side, then yes, it's only in the last 47%. But we can follow up on that issue. I think if the commissioners could consider whether we could retain this existing shed, but bring it into compliance as much as possible with regard to the setbacks and the 50% rule, that would be wonderful if you could consider that.
Because the way I'm looking at the shed from inside, I don't, of course, the location is at this point debatable, right? Whether it's in first 50% or second 50%. How it's calculated, I'm not clear on that. But the inside of it that I am looking at, it definitely needs to be done to the electric code. To me, it doesn't look like as is, it should be kept. You are building such a pretty home there, you definitely want this to look good also. So that's...
Mrs. Gupta?
Yes.
Can I add something to this?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, you're concerned about the electrical, being that this is what I do as a contractor.
Okay.
The electrical is actually fine. It's properly done. It's done with, as I'm looking at the picture, we're looking at the picture right now, is done what is called the flexible conduit. Rigid, it's not rigid, this is flexible conduit.
Okay.
So it's not in any danger. The loose wires that you see around, that's considered a low voltage wiring, which present no electrical hazard, because they're low voltage wiring. So as I look at it, the electrical is fine. Now, I do have several other serious issues with regards to this shed, and I don't think it should stay. For the other problems that it has, one is the proximity to the fence. You know, that it does not meet the setback that is required. That's one. Second, there's too many sheds already. I think, as it was properly pointed out by someone else, they're asking for too many exceptions with regards to the entire project. And I don't think, you know, having more sheds should be another exception. And just to give you a little, you know, from personal experience, in the past, I built a shed in my own house with permits within the setback, with a survey to make sure that it was within the setback. Later on, I added a detached garage, and because the zoning regulation calls for only one accessory building, only one allowed. When I built my garage, I was made to remove a permitted shed that met all the setbacks. So, because I could only have one, and in this case now I could only retain the new garage, but not the shed. So the rule is one shed, and now we're looking at 3 sheds. I think they already have one too many if we're going to allow the second shed. So that's my point. It has several issues as far as, you know, when you look at actually the shed from the outside, there's too much dirt up against it. There's probably a drive right into that. So from my perspective, this shed needs to go. Redoing the electrical, as the owner was saying, is not a big deal. Most of this stuff is, like I said, in a flexible conduit that's easily removed, easily replaced. It should not be a big deal rerunning and replacing what he has there. Anyway, that's what I needed to add to this conversation.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramirez. Yeah, that explains things well. But if it falls in the first 50%, then we are already, if we approve
it's a moot point. I think the 50% is a moot point because of the several other things that it has going against it. Being that is the third shed, being that is it doesn't meet the setback. So even the 50% would be another one, but you know, we don't need to discuss the 50% one way or the other. It has enough problems that we don't even need to discuss the 50%. If it's in the front and the back, I think it's a moot point.
Okay. Yeah, no, I understand your flexible conduit. I understand those. But all these wiring running around, this plug point that I see right there, so that you said is a low voltage?
Low voltage, yeah.
Low voltage, okay. And then there are, I found my copy of the staff report too, and I see other wirings running around, which don't all look like low voltage to me, but maybe they are.
Yeah, they are. I mean, you see the timer for the sprinklers.
Mm-hmm.
All those wires running down, that's low voltage. That only sends 12 volts to the sprinkler valves.
Okay.
I see transformers that are plugged into the 220 outlets. So the transformers also send low voltage that don't present any danger.
So that black box, yeah, I found mine too. The picture 6, it says, that's the transformer there? The black
Yes,
one? Oh,
yes.
okay. All right. Okay, yeah, even in picture 8. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Fang. At this time, let me think about it, but no more questions at this time.
Commissioner Hanson.
Looking at the pictures raised a question. I'd like to ask something of the staff. The shed 3 in question, it looks like the roof drains onto the neighbor's yard. Is that correct?
Let me pull up the picture so that I can look into that. It's right at the property line. So yes, if it is right at the property line, that is a possibility that it will be draining to the neighbor's property.
Yes, and so that in itself is another complication where that is not permitted. Correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, that's my only question. I'm done.
Commissioner Ramirez, did you have any other questions for the applicant?
No, I don't.
Okay, so now we have public comment on this item, and I'll turn this portion over to Ms. Lujan.
Thank you so much. This is public comment for item number 3. So please raise your hand if you have any comments or questions or want to speak on this item. Right now, I do see 9 people on the line, but none of them have their hands raised. Just give it a couple of seconds. There are no speakers.
Seeing that no members of the public wish to speak, if there are no objections, public comment on this item is now closed. Staff wish to offer any other comments on the issues raised at this time?
No, so far I have just received comments from 2 neighbors, and those were provided in the staff report. The comments were with regards to the tree being removed and exception being seeked. And I did not receive any other communications or emails from any other neighbors on this item.
Okay, so now we'll move on to commissioner comments and deliberation. We'll start with Commissioner Gupta.
So in terms of, just 1 second. So here we are looking at approving the design review permit, non-conforming use permit, and fence height exception. I would just like to throw this out there. Commissioner Ramirez said that, and staff said too, that only one additional structure is allowed. So if we are going with that, then how is it that we are saying shed 1 and shed 2 are okay to keep, and we can remove, applicant has to remove shed 3? There's 3 and 4, both.
So now I'll take that if you don't mind.
Okay.
So Commissioner Ramirez is absolutely right that the zoning regulations is one detached accessory structure. Over time, however, the department at my direction has gotten a little bit more flexible in terms of allowing both a parking, a garage, as well as a shed for storage of garden materials, because we realize that it's very difficult in many instances to fit both your cars and your gardening materials into a garage. So the shed number 1 is actually constructed as a detached garage and is used for the purposes of storing a car. So we believe that it's appropriate for them to keep the additional garage and to have a shed for storage of garden materials and other things that you don't want to keep in your house. So with those two, we feel that they've maxed out and that they're eligible for a use permit to allow for the 2. But beyond that, we feel that the additional shed 3 and shed 4 do need to go to both get as close to conformance as possible and to address some of the other concerns the commissioners raised.
Okay. And I see that shed 2 is a lot bigger in size. And it also sits only 1 foot from the property line.
That's
which is-
correct. And yes, we can accommodate non-conforming structures like that through the issuance of a use permit where the commission feels it's appropriate.
Okay. And this was approved early on. Is that correct? Am I
Yes,
understanding?
Shed
correct?
1, I believe, is the one that received the planning permit. Shed 2, I believe, is just a remnant shed that's been there for a long time. Is that
Okay.
correct, Sanal?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And if we allow the shed 2 to remain, they will have to file a permit, right? After the, what we call after the fact permit. Okay. But there is no concern about not being in compliance in terms of setback.
Not with the use permit.
Not with the use permit. Okay. Yeah, in general, the project is good. It's a large property and it looks like a good design. But this one thought that even came to my mind is if what they are, if we do away with shed 2, and this is just something I'm throwing out there, and keep shed 1 and 3, is that something we would like to consider?
Well, I'll throw the staff's perspective out on that. And I think that shed 3 is more problematic based on its location. It also seems to be, as you point out, smaller and would serve less utility than the shed 2. So for that reason, I think we're better off sticking with sheds 1 and 2 and removing 3 and 4.
Okay. No, this is just something I'm throwing out. It's of course the applicants and their decision and staff's decision. So, yeah, no, I don't have any other question. I'm still thinking about it as to in which direction I'm going to go. So I'll leave it at that at this time. Thank you.
Good. Okay, Commissioner Hanson.
Yeah, I have no objections to this project. I believe sheds 3 and 4 should go. I have no problems with 1 or 2. We may not be consistent with our way we do things, but it is reasonable.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo Commissioner Hanson's words on that. I think the project overall, I think is a nice project, and thank you to the planner for the presentation. I think the 3D renderings, I think, were helpful on figuring out how this is going to look. So anyway, my only objection here is to allow that shed number 3. I think 3 and 4 should need to go, and so let's leave it at the recommendation of planning.
I too support the planning department recommendation on the disposition of the sheds. So does somebody, Commissioner Gupta, did you want to say any more, or are we ready for a motion?
No, I think I concur with the with my fellow commissioners on that. I was just trying to look for a solution for the applicants, but yes, I'll go along with that.
Okay, may we have a motion?
Yeah. Can you put up the recommendation, please?
Yes. Sorry.
I can make the motion if you like. Oh, here we go.
Okay, so I'll make the motion. I move that the planning commission adopt the design review, non-conforming use permit, and fence height exception as per for plan number is PLN 2020-0402, subject to the attached finding and attachments and attachment A in the staff report.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Commissioner Santa Cruz. Oh, sorry, he's absent. Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Chair Ketchum.
Aye.
Thank you.
So motion passes 4-0. Thank you. We'll move on now to item, which is number 4 on the regular agenda with staff. Will staff introduce the item?
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Owner applicant, Chris Gunderlakis, file number PLN 2015-00084, location 185 Verde Road in San Gregorio, and the project planner is Summer Burleson. Summer?
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Ketchum and commissioners. My name is Summer Burleson, project planner with the San Mateo County Planning and Building Department. This morning, I'm going to present item 4, which I will share my screen for. Is that visible? It's showing up a little different on my screen than I'm used to.
It's visible, but we see the menu on the side. It's not full screen.
Okay. Sorry, hold on a minute. Sorry, apologies. 1 minute. Okay, let me try again here and see if that worked. Is that working?
Oh, there
Full
you go.
screen? Okay, great. So this item, as I mentioned, item 4 is for the consideration of the county's evaluation of the property's Williamson Act compliance and ongoing seasonal recreation activity compliance for the Arata Pumpkin Farm located at 185 Verde Road in San Gregorio, planning case number 2015-00084. The consideration today is for the Planning Commission's consideration of staff's evaluation of the property's Williamson Act compliance, which I'll go through in a minute, on the tasks that we completed for that evaluation, to confirm seasonal activities are being carried out in compliance with the terms of the Planned Agricultural District Permit and Coastal Development Permit for the seasonal recreation activities that occur during the pumpkin season of October on an annual basis, and to determine whether any modifications to the conditions or any new conditions are needed in order to achieve compliance. So for the Williamson Act compliance review, staff did several site inspections throughout this year to verify crop production, and the site inspections were done jointly between county planning staff as well as our county's ag weights and measures department. And this was the site inspection in May of this year, showing the crop fields that had just recently been planted with corn and pumpkins on the property. And they're also growing trees along the perimeter of the property, which will be more visible as to their location in another slide coming up, for the hope of being able to sell Christmas trees during the Christmas season off-site initially, and eventually with the possibility of coming back and amending their permits to allow Christmas tree sales on-site. Right now, they're just growing them on-site. And we did a re-inspection between the ag department and county planning staff in June of 2021 of this year, and to see the progress of the corn and pumpkin crops as shown in these photos. And again, in September of this year, again, just to check and confirm the production and progress on the crops. Staff also looked at the use compatibility requirements under the Williamson Act, which requires the percentage of total parcel area used for compatible uses not to exceed the percentage used for agricultural uses, and that the portion of the parcel used for compatible uses does not exceed 25% of the parcel size. And as shown in the table on this screen and included in the staff report, the property relative to agricultural uses and compatible uses does comply with these compatibility criteria. Staff and the ag department also did an income verification for crop production pursuant to the Williamson Act requirements, which requires for crop production requires a gross crop income that exceeds 10,000 square feet. I'm sorry, $10,000. And we did review the applicant's federal tax return Schedule F forms, which are the typical documentation that we use to confirm this for Williamson Act contract compliance, and did confirm that they do exceed this $10,000 annual limit for the past 3 federal tax return cycles. So that income verification was completed. This evaluation was taken to the Agricultural Advisory Committee on September 13th of this year, and there was a majority opinion that from the Agricultural Advisory Committee that they remained unconvinced that the property complies with the Williamson Act despite staff's evaluation. And they did vote 5-2 to recommend that the property's permits allowing seasonal commercial recreation activities be non-renewed based on concern of the property's compliance with the Williamson Act. Staff's conclusion, however, based on our evaluation, is that the property does comply with the minimum eligibility requirements for remaining under contract, as we completed the tasks necessary pursuant to the Williamson Act regulations to determine, and staff finds that there's no further action necessary at this time relative to the Williamson Act for this property, and that the county's Land Conservation Act regulations, Uniform Rule 4, Section B for non-renewals, does provide a separate process for non-renewals should staff in the future make a determination based on evaluation that the property does fall out of compliance. So relative to seasonal recreation operations that are occurring during this October season of this October pumpkin season, one of the conditions and recommendations or requests from the last Planning Commission meeting last October 2020 was for a lighting condition to be added, and that was added last year as condition number 33. And the applicant, as requested at the last Planning Commission meeting in October of last year, the applicant did provide a site plan showing the lighting. And don't worry, I will, my next slide is a better view of the site plan here. But they provided a site plan of the lighting, what's existing, as well as future proposal that they would like to add on the site in terms of exterior lighting, and then the cut sheet for the lighting, which is a solar light, and you can see the images here. So hopefully this is a better view or clearer view of the site lighting. On the left-hand side shows with the red stars, shows the existing lights on the site, and those are also represented on the Google aerial view on the right side of your screen here. So there are a couple, 4 lights, 2 at the entrance to the facility, and 2 more closer to Highway 1 that are along the perimeter of the property to kind of into the parking lot area below Verde Road. And the rest of the existing lights are primarily, they are located around the developed area. This is there's a couple at the snack shack, at the ticket booth, and the sales booth and area. The rest of the lighting that is represented with the blue dots around the maze and around the primary field and along Verde Road, which again is on the property, but closest to Verde Road. The blue dots are the proposed lighting that they would like to add in the future to the facility. But for now, again, the red starred locations are where the existing lighting is located, and it again is the cut sheets that we saw in the previous slide here. And it's hard to see, but I tried to show, like, this is the entrance to the property from Verde Road up above, and they've got 2 lights here, and then this is their sales kiosk, and they've got you can hopefully see the lights off of there as well as some of the existing lights. The other item that was mentioned at the previous Planning Commission meeting was just relative to hours of operation, and staff did have an opportunity to go back and look at a facility, a similar facility along Highway 92, and did identify that the hours of operation are, staff found that they were comparable to the facility along Highway 92 with regards to opening and closing hours of operation. This just shows an overview of the site and primarily the parking. So they've got a parking lot. Verde Road is off to the right side here, and you come into the property, and then they've got this parking lot. They're required as a condition to keep 135, I believe, spaces available. They use this field as well that they have where they actually grow pumpkins during the year. And once they're harvested, this is open, as you see here, for additional overflow parking as needed. And just some additional photos. Here you can see the parking lot and the fields, and they do have their necessary signages posted with regards to contact information for the planning and building department and county staff should any concerns arise. Staff went out at the end of September and did a site inspection relative to the conditions of the permit to confirm that they were in compliance with the conditions of approval. The Coastside Fire Station also went out in September and did an inspection and verified that they as well were satisfied with the operations that were in preparation for this October pumpkin season. There had been in years past concerns about a haunted house on the property, and there are conditions that speak to that. And Coastside Fire did confirm that they, in their last inspection in September, they did okay the haunted house to be in operation, which it is this season. And they were okay with the rest of the facility and buildings on site, and have not received any complaints regarding traffic or obstruction of emergency vehicle access. However, they do note that they do periodic inspections throughout the pumpkin season of October, and to check the facility throughout the October month. And they will continue to do that this year as well to ensure that conditions are being complied with throughout the duration of the season, including any emergency access concerns. And so the recommendation today is a little different probably than a typical project, but staff's recommendation is that the Planning Commission has considered the Agricultural Advisory Committee's comments on the county's evaluation of the property's Williamson Act compliance, that the Planning Commission determines that the seasonal recreation activities are being carried out in compliance with the terms of the Planned Agricultural District Permit and Coastal Development Permit and applicable county policies and regulations, and that the Planning Commission determines no modifications to conditions or new conditions on the Planned Agricultural District Permit and Coastal Development Permit are needed to achieve compliance. And that concludes staff's presentation, and I am available for questions.
Thank you. Do commissioners have questions for staff? We'll start again with Commissioner Gupta.
Thank you for your presentation, Summer. It's a very interesting project. People with young kids or young grandkids can relate to it. I really don't have any particular questions, but you had mentioned about they wanting to add more lighting. Is that lighting going to be similar to the street lights that they already have on that you had shown with the red stars?
Yes, that would be correct. It's the same solar light that you saw in the cut sheet.
Okay.
From the slide.
Yeah. On one hand, we are concerned about losing that, the word I'm looking for is that ambiance. But on the other hand, it gets dark sooner these days. So having light more for safety reasons and for how people get there. I think that definitely should be looked at. The lighting plan should be reviewed for that purpose. Are they going to come back and apply for something, a permit for putting the lights?
No, the lighting as solar installation lighting, there's no electrical, hard electrical line runs for it, if that's the correct terminology. So they would not need building permits for the lighting. And just to clarify, and I apologize if it was unclear in the presentation, but the lighting plan that they've provided that we've seen today, and the lighting manufacturer specification sheet are what they have used and what they propose to use, and that is up for that is being provided to the commission as part of your review, as requested at the last planning commission meeting. So that is the commission's review as to whether it appears, adequate, too much, not enough, to provide direction on that aspect.
Okay. Thank you. So my question really is about at this today we are looking more whether the property complies with the Williamson Act contract. Is that correct?
Yes,
is
that's
one of the
correct,
components.
Commissioner Gupta. If I could add a little more context to that.
Okay.
So the Williamson Act provides the ability of the county to enter into a contract with landowners to ensure that the property will be used for agricultural purposes. And in return, the property gets a different formula for calculating the property tax. So property tax is typically lowered. And the Agricultural Advisory Committee has really studied Williamson Act compliance closely with a wide range of farms throughout the county. There was a point in time where the county was audited by the state with regard to Williamson Act compliance. And as a result of that audit, the county non-renewed a large number of contracts because those properties were not being used for commercial agriculture. So the Ag Advisory Committee has raised that concern with regard to this property. Staff has looked at this issue a number of times, and each time we've come to the same conclusion, and that is that there is adequate commercial agricultural activity occurring on the property to warrant the Williamson Act contract. And then this Williamson Act issue relates to LCP compliance, the coastal development permit that was granted for the seasonal agricultural recreation activities, because commercial recreation is supposed to be secondary to agricultural production. And so that's the other issue that's relevant to the commission today is the commercial recreation activity secondary to agriculture? And we believe that it is. For the majority of the year, the property is used for growing crops. So it's just during the fall season where they do the pumpkin sales and the maize and the commercial recreation activities, which helps support the agricultural activities, but does not is not the primary use of the property. So I think those are the two main issues in front of the commission: Williamson Act compliance, and then also LCP compliance with regard to maintaining agricultural uses.
May I just interject a question at this point? It's my understanding that the commercial recreation activity season for this property runs from July 1st till the end of October, 4 months. Is that correct?
I'll refer to Summer on that. Summer, I think that is
I-
allowed under the terms of the permit.
Yes, so under the terms of the permit, they are allowed, the period is July 1st through November 1st, and October being their primary season with all of the kind of entertainment activities associated with that.
Okay, I just wanted to interrupt with that. So back to Commissioner Gupta.
Thank you, Chair. So piggybacking on the question that Chair Ketchum asked, so you or the staff went and looked at the crops in September. So at that time, there were still agricultural activities going on, correct?
Well, yes, so they're growing the crops even through, I mean, there's still crops. I believe it's the corn crops that are still there growing during the October season, up to and during the October season. All of the pumpkins that they've produced have been harvested by that time and are then available for sale as they sell throughout the year as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, I have no problem, just more for clarification. Thank you. So what Director Monovich said is that they are doing this other seasonal activity like pumpkin patch and haunted house and other seasonal activities more to support themselves. Is that correct? Right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, so they do, aside from, they do the seasonal October, let's say, activities to help support the property operations. Throughout the rest of the year, they are also, though, selling parts of the corn. They sell the husks, they sell the corn for, I believe the applicant has indicated in the past, they don't sell the corn so much for eating, but they sell it. It's very popular for decorating purposes for the fall season. So they are selling the corn and primarily and pumpkins throughout the year as well.
Okay.
Aside from the commercial October season.
Right. So, okay. So my last question really, maybe it is for the applicant later on, but I just want to throw it out there there was a correspondence about parking problems that there's a backup, the street gets clogged, the neighbors are complaining about that. I don't know whether you would be addressing that or should I wait for the applicant to respond to that?
Yes, I can speak a little to that, and then the applicants may wish to share further detail as well. But we did see that comment come in as well, and we have not received any complaints in either last year or so far this year regarding parking and traffic outside of this concern that was raised a few days ago. And we did check in with Coastside Fire related to concerns about emergency access for them to be able to access the site. They have not raised any concerns. But as they mentioned before, they did mention that they do periodic checks throughout the season on the facility, just to make sure that all of the conditions, including traffic conditions, are not impeding safe access for emergency vehicles to the site. And I believe there are conditions that prevent parking along Verde Road as well. I think during COVID, my understanding is that they do have, they do function to where they have, there's more limited accessibility. Less people can basically, be on the site at any time. And so I think that they do have parking management staff, which is another condition of approval, that they have parking attendants on site to help direct traffic as well as direct parking on their facility. And they do maintain that parking lot that's on their facility and the overflow parking lot available. The applicant can speak more to, I'm not sure what their general numbers are or what their traffic activity is this season so far.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I don't have any more questions at this time.
Commissioner Hanson.
Hi, Summer. I've got some questions. Why is this item in front of us? Is it because it was turned down by the Agricultural Committee?
So at the last Planning Commission meeting in October of 2020, the Planning Commission did the renewal, the permits were up for renewal. And so the Agricultural Advisory Committee, prior to coming to the Planning Commission last year, the Agricultural Advisory Committee had concerns about the Williamson Act compliance, and they requested that staff do a more thorough evaluation before they could make a recommendation or provide any more comment on the renewal permits. When we came to the Planning Commission last year, we brought that information to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission did approve renewal of the permits with a added language to, I believe, condition 1, that we come back to the Planning Commission once we've completed a evaluation as requested by the Agricultural Advisory Committee, and once we receive their comments on that evaluation for further consideration by the Planning Commission of their Williamson Act compliance. And then the other part of it was that we would provide an update as to whether they complied with their conditions from last season, which they have, and an update on their compliance this season.
Okay. So the findings from the Agriculture Committee is they're not. Did they say specifically why not?
They don't. They don't believe that the property can meet that income requirement just based off of the their consideration of the limited ag that they produce on the property. And they have concerns with the amount of seasonal activities relative to the actual area of land used for crop production.
So if the county gets this wrong and is really not a Williamson compliance, what are we at risk for being wrong? Are we sanctioned? Are we get audited? What are we at risk for getting this decision wrong here?
I think, yeah, I might defer that to Steve. We do periodic evaluations of contract compliance in general, and the potential ultimate, I guess, repercussion could be that at an audit from the state at some time in the future, that if it's found to be incorrect, that there could be some consequences from that. However, as I mentioned, staff, along with the ag department and ag commissioner, have thoroughly reviewed the concerns raised by the Ag Advisory Committee relative to the requirements that a property has to satisfy in order to be under contract. And we do believe that they are meeting those requirements.
But there's no fines, there's
I believe council's ready to speak to that.
contracts.
Oh, sure. Tim?
So at the end of the day, Commissioner Hanson, the Williamson Act is it's a tax incentive.
Right.
And it results in a reduction in the amount of property tax, usually a reduction in the amount of property tax that an owner will pay on a property in comparison to what would ordinarily be paid under Prop 13. And so the program, if a county has a Williamson Act program, has an effect on all the tax collecting organizations in which the property resides. And as a result of that, the state of California has an interest in ensuring that the Williamson Act program in each county, again, if there is one being operated, is operated fairly and consistently with uniform standards in order to prevent circumstances where a board of supervisors might issue Williamson Act contracts to properties that are not truly in agricultural production. And that's the reason why the Department of Conservation came around over 10 years ago and took a look at our program and made some corrections to our process for verifying compliance, because everyone all the way up to the state of California has an interest in ensuring that the property tax that's collected is fairly allocated amongst all the possible taxpayers. But there's not really a fine or a specific sort of planning consequence to the county making a determination that a particular property complies with the rules. We just need to apply it fairly and uniformly is what it boils down to. That's the process that we struggle with. I would also say that the Planning Commission's role in this process is fairly unique, because the Planning Commission actually doesn't decide whether or not a contract should be entered into. That's a Board of Supervisors function. And the process of non-renewing is also directly a Board of Supervisors function. But because of the history of this property and the interplay between the Williamson Act concerns and the use permit renewal, we decided that having a process where all of these issues are sort of aired out in the way that we've done would be beneficial. So really, it's not a decision that would bind the Board of Supervisors from pursuing another kind of remedy with regard to the contract if it wanted to.
Okay, thank you. So, basically, the question is, are they doing farming? And is most of the year, are they doing farming? And if they need supplemental income to make a go at it, we said it's okay for them to do it from this period A to period B. And that's as long as it doesn't impact most of the farming season. Is that really what we're looking at?
Correct.
Okay, I got what I needed. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Yeah, I think that most of my my questions have been answered, especially by Mr. Fox, that so eloquently puts it all together in a nice package. But I do want to understand something. The primary use, so now it's more determined by the length of the agricultural use rather than any other use that they give. So because I think in this case we're like for the recreational part there's 4 months, and for the agricultural it's 8 months. But I mean they meet the standard because they go over the 10,000 income for agriculture. So it's not determined by the amount of money that they make in any particular use. Am I right? But it's more in the length of the use.
Relative to Williamson Act, it's
Yeah.
the components are more the that they're meeting a certain income requirement, which is the 10,000 annually for crop production, which is what they do on the property, and that the compatible uses, which are the haunted house and the hay maze and these more entertainment activities on the property, that they consume no more than 25% of the parcel, which they do not, and that the agricultural uses, so the crop production on the property, exceeds the amount of crop production in terms of size, exceeds the amount of land, I guess, used for the non-agriculture, non-crop production activity. So it's more the proportion of ag to non-ag and the income limitation or income requirement.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, so today, as well as last October, we've been asked to approve the seasonal permit virtually at the end of the 4-month commercial event season, July through October. So if we approve this now, does the 5-year permit commence with 2022, or did it commence with 2021 or 2020?
I believe it would have commenced with 2020.
Okay.
Would be the first year.
Okay.
And so this would be this 2021 would be the second year of the 5-year.
Thank you. So, and then regarding, I had asked this last year about the activities along Highway 92, and the only one that I've actually seen the permit information was Santa's Tree Farm, which operates from 9 a.m. to sunset with no lighting allowed in association with the event. So I don't know the overall, anyway, whatever, I just wanted to point that out. My concerns a year ago were the after dark hours in the fall and the potential for artificial light pollution in the rural setting of low ambient light. The condition 33 includes the applicant shall submit for review and approval a lighting plan and manufacturer cut sheets for all site lighting associated with the commercial recreation activity. And I don't see that this was done. The lighting plan submitted is barely legible and proposes triple the original number of lighting fixtures. There are no specifications for the 13 original fixtures around the developed area, and the 26 new 6,000 lumen LED fixtures have already been purchased and installed on 20-foot poles, which was my understanding from the lighting plan, mostly in areas not previously illuminated. My understanding from the plan was that all this had already been installed. This is what it said on there. But so my question is, did staff review the lighting plan before the new lighting was purchased and installed? And have the new 6,000 lumen LED lights been used this season? Are they on all night as the specifications suggest, or what time are they shut off? And what are the 4 new LED fixtures on the west side nearest Highway 1? Is this expanded parking? I think you alluded to overflow parking there. I hadn't been aware that that was it. On the site plan. There's no mention of parking over there or numbers or anything.
Yes, to your first comment regarding Santa's Tree Farm, just to clarify, we did not include that as a comparable site when we looked at hours of operation, merely for the fact that the Santa's Tree Farm operates on an agritourism permit, which is a separate kind of permit with different conditions or criteria in order to fall under an agritourism permit versus a PAD permit and a CDP, as this property does for long-term use of the property for agricultural and seasonal recreation activities. So they're different permitting processes and have different requirements, basically. That's why you're not seeing the comparison of that facility. With regards to the lighting, no, staff, per the last Planning Commission meeting, staff did request that a lighting plan be submitted and cut sheets, and that's what's being proposed. That's what's partly before you today to review, to give the commission an opportunity to review, as that was a request, I believe, from the last Planning Commission meeting. The applicants have, I don't know how long the lights that have been installed or are existing have been there for. My understanding is that they, the ones that are there have been there for a long period of time, possibly since the last meeting, and that no new lights, I believe, my understanding is, have been installed, but the plan shows what they propose to add if these lighting fixtures are okay by the county, and that is part of what was included as attachment, I think, E to the staff report for the commission's consideration, whether what's there and what's proposed is adequate, or there are comments on that, and whether the light fixture itself is adequate. The light fixture that was included in the staff report and shown in the slide presentation is the light, the existing light, as well as the proposed light fixture. It's the same one. In terms of how long it stays on, I believe it is on all night. I would need to defer to the applicant on that detail.
Okay. So the International Dark Sky Association seeks to reduce harmful effects of light pollution. This includes that outdoor lighting be no brighter than necessary, only on when needed, and only light the area that needs it. In partnership with the Illuminating Engineer Society, they provide a model lighting ordinance with standards for allowed lumens in lighting zones 0 to 4, representing a range of ambient light from none, zone 0, to high, zone 4. This rural South Coast would be lighting zone 1, low ambient light. Per the staff report, the parking, hay maze, and play set cover 1.5 acres. The International Dark Sky Association recommends no more than 1.5 lumens per square foot of hardscape, or dirt in this case, in lighting zone 1, which equals 98,000 lumens for 1.5 acres. The 26 new, just the new fixtures, give off a total of 156,000 lumens. So that's 98,000 is the appropriate maximum. What they're proposing is 156 lumens, far exceeding what is recommended for low ambient light rural area. The applicant said last year that visitors used their flashlights in the hay maze. After all these years of operation, why would the hay maze need to be brightly lighted now? So I have some, like I say, I have some confusion as to, I would also not characterize the sheet attached to the lighting plan as a manufacturer's cut sheet. There's much information missing from that is really needed to evaluate the brightness and spread of the proposed lighting. But anyway, that's it for me from now. Does the applicant wish to speak at this time?
I think you're muted, Chris.
Mr.
Hello?
There you are.
Yes, yes. Uh, I, I guess at first I want to start, what a terrific job the staff has done to take all this time and take all these pictures and visit us on several occasions. I mean, hats off to them. And we're very simple people, and seeing what we're just watched through the whole presentation here, it's just a phenomenal process. And thank you for, of course, taking the time to evaluate our situation. You know, it is always a pleasure to be in front of you. Some people may think differently, but we really enjoy it because we get to convert with you and answer different questions because they're all wholesome questions. As far as the lighting, let's jump on that first. I made the assumption, as one of you ladies, I believe, the commissioners asked about lighting. I was on the other end thinking that you needed more lighting for the safety and people to be able to walk through the parking and to the maze and so forth. The lighting is not important here at all. And we're not using the lighting other than just to make people be able to see to their vehicles and not to attract more business. My goodness, we're so blessed because we have a tremendous amount of business already, and we do not advertise. We do not push it at all. It's just people bringing in other people. And we're so fortunate for that. As far as the lighting, we purchased the lights. If we don't put up one single Terry more light, we're happy with that. We don't need to. Again, I was thinking about the opposite way, perhaps that you wanted us to have more lighting so people can see a little bit better. But people enjoy it the way it is, and we have no issues of living it the same way. Secondly, if there's any more questions on that, I can go ahead and continue on this conversation. I've noticed my clock is running up here. Now, on the defense of these folks, I guess at the Ag Committee, they've been treating us harshly, but with a misunderstanding. I'm sorry. With the misunderstanding, they're wholesalers, and they look at it from a wholesale point of view. And I can understand how they think, how the small parcel that we have here in the wholesale land cannot make the $10,000 plateau and surpass it like we do 2 or 3-fold over. Give you an example. I don't know if you can see it. This pumpkin here on a regular wholesale bin, it will fit about, say, close to 100 of them. And this pumpkin, the whole bin will sell for maybe no more than $100 to $120 a bin on the wholesale market. What we're able to do here with a lot of hard work of my whole family and dedication, countless of hours of labor, we have found a way that we can sell this pumpkin for $15 to $20. So therefore, the pumpkins that we sell here, we do not go to a wholesaler to where he's a middleman that they go ahead and sell it to someone else and make all the profit. With your help, we have found a way that we can go ahead and sell it directly to the customer, to the consumer, and we make the money instead of the wholesaler, instead of the middleman. So I wanted to clarify that, and I do not have any animosity towards the people that are negatively talking about us at the Ag Committee, but we have failed to explain to them how we meet that criteria and how we're able to go ahead and, I guess, be so successful. As far as parking also, what we've done, because we do see the problems that occur on Highway 1 with the beaches that we have here, people parking on the highway and how difficult and how dangerous it is for, I guess, families and people with their pets crossing the highway. And every time we see it, just my hair just stands straight up. Oh my goodness, people can be going 60, 70 miles an hour, and here there are people walking right next to the highway. So what we've done with our property, we encourage people to come in a certain way, which is on the third Verde Road. As they come in, we ask them to go and make a U-turn, inconvenience them, and get them in line behind our property. And that's the line that you see that goes all the way sometimes back 20, 30, 40, 50 vehicles. And these people now patiently with their families are waiting to enter our parking that we have. Our parking here, we used to have an off-site parking that we used in the past, and people were able to come in. We've done away with that because of COVID. And this is a way that we keep our numbers down. We keep our numbers down by just allowing just our parking lot and no more other off-site parking. Now, as people leave, which is happening quite routinely, and not every 10, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, there's always the turnaround. So as people are waiting patiently, some people decide to go home, come back during the week, as we advise them to do. Others want to stick it out and wait and enjoy the farm on the weekend as they're here. And there is 4 to 6 days, I think, of that, which happens to be the last 2-3 weekends of October. The rest of the time, our parking lot is more than sufficient enough. But as people get excited, want to come out to the farm in October, on the weekends especially, because that's when they're not working, that's when we get congested. But we've been handling it by having plenty of parking assistants, plenty of security staff, and they advise the people what to do. They direct them all the way down the road. And yes, there's sometimes that a couple of our neighbors that we have here, even though they're so far away, some vehicles would park temporarily close to their gates as they're moving closer to the farm. So that might occur, and that might have what I've said it, I guess, one of the gentlemen here, that's one of our neighbors. But again, that only happens maybe not even half a dozen times throughout the whole year, which is in, I guess, on the weekends in October for about 3-4 hours. Other than that, the farm has been here forever, as you well know. We work hard. We have found a niche, something, in other words, that works, that people really like. Maybe it's our personality, maybe it's our wholesomeness, maybe it's what we have to offer. And I don't know, we're just very proud of this little place. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Now I'm just babbling, and I can go on babbling about this place because we're so proud of it for a long time. So please stop me.
Okay, so questions for Mr. Gounalakis. We'll start with Commissioner Gupta.
Thank you, Mr. Gounalakis. Did I say it right?
The pleasure is mine. You did very well. I've been called worse.
Sorry about that. Okay.
No,
So,
worries.
no, it was good hearing your side of the situation here, or the project here. So if I remember correct, there are some 90 some parking spots in your parking area. Is that correct?
It could be a little bit more than that.
More
we
than
hope
that,
it is
yes.
if we park them correctly.
Right, right. And you see more people, more than that number of people coming on the weekends at one time?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Families come here. I mean, you can't stop them. They
Right.
want to park on the road and walk down.
Okay. And on an average, how much time do they spend there? They may end up spending.
You know, that is a very good question. We have not really kept track, but without having food here, county suggested that they spent, could be 20 minutes, depending if they're coming just for pumpkins. I was going to give you the long version of my answer. If we had food here, which the county does not allow us to have, which is a smart move, I finally accepted that. I fought them for years. And kids get hungry and they move on, they go eat something. That means they live quicker. If we don't have any more exhibitions like we used to years ago, where people used to stay and watch, so now people, that used to delay people as well. So the turnaround time, I'm guessing, I want to say half an hour, perhaps.
Okay.
If they come to buy pumpkins, maybe quicker than that.
Okay. So, so when you have, do you still have haunted house on your?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
We have a,
so, right. So they must
we
be
have a
taking
s- a
longer
small
to go
version
through
of the
that,
haunted.
right?
No, the haunted house, it's less than 5-minute walk. It's very small.
Oh, I see.
The
Okay.
maze is the main attraction. The maze is what takes a while, but some
Maze.
people don't, they go in, 10, 15 minutes later, they come out. They say, even if they solved it or not, they're happy that they did it.
Okay. So,
And of
so
course,
your,
we have pony rides.
so your entrance and exit from the parking is kind of managed well? Like more people coming
Very,
in, more?
very well.
Okay, okay. So you do
Very
provide,
well.
per our condition of approval, you do provide attendance, especially
Yes.
on the weekends. Right.
Many of
Okay.
them.
Okay. All right. Great. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
Commissioner Hanson.
I don't have any specific questions other than to let you know that every time we've had a project in the South Coast, I have driven by your farm, and I'll save my observations during our comment period. But I have observed you several times within the past year alone.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
So just to confirm, Mr. Gunalakis, so the only lighting you have is the 13 original fixtures that are mainly in the developed area?
Well, there is 2 or 3 more of those luminous ones that we've added, thinking that we were doing the right thing by adding more lighting. But there's nothing that's closed onto the maze. There's nothing that's closed on to the Highway 1 at all. The only ones are just kind of shadily just providing a little bit of light for people to be able to see to get in their cars in the parking lot.
But the lighting plan
There
was
is no,
it showed 2 symbols, one that says existing and one that was proposed but already installed. So you're saying that
no, go ahead.
There were 2 symbols, and one had the rays of light coming out, and those
Right.
were the existing, and then the darker symbol was the new lighting that was proposed, but it said it was already installed on 20-foot poles. And you're saying
The only ones, the green ones, I believe, the green ones are the only ones that are existing. The proposed ones have not been installed. And under your recommendation, I'm understanding they should not be installed, and I have no problems with that.
all right, I'm just not, also, so are they turned off or are they on all night as the spec sheet indicated?
They could be, they come with a little remote control. They can be turned off. We have not been turning them off because we can see if there's any disturbance in the middle of the night. If anybody was to come onto the property, or some youngsters that sometimes are feeling very adventurous and they want to come in the middle of the night, we'll be able to see if there is any foul play. And that's the only reason we leave them on. And according to your recommendation, whatever you suggest, we can do.
Well, so those existing fixtures then, are they also 6,000 lumens?
You know, the way they're designed, they only shed light, as you notice, straight down, and there's no light that reflects left or right or behind or forward. They're only made, they're parking lights, so they're designed, it's just as a pyramid to go ahead and shed light down below. If anything, pictures at nighttime, they do not do them any justice. And of course, the manufacturer has really induced that lighting. They are not very bright at all. I'm in the beginning, to be honest with you, I was quite disappointed with how much lighting they provided. And that's why I designed to put so many more, because there's just not enough of them.
Because we thought we needed.
It doesn't, the light just sheds straight down and maybe does 3 or 4 parking spots. The rest of it you can't see.
So you don't actually know how many lumens the fixtures provide?
Well, it is what the paper says. If that's, we purchased 2 different ones. The first ones, I think, only had 2 lights on them. The second ones that the manufacturer have upgraded that we purchased had 4 lights. If that means anything, maybe I'm presuming the specifications you have. I think the staff took a picture of the second ones that we purchased that are more luminous than the first. Therefore, I would imagine that the ones in first, we cut that in half, and that's how many lumens they have of what the second one says, if that makes any sense.
If I may, the ones to the detail that was provided in this slideshow is 6,000 lumens.
That's quite bright. For, you know, especially for such a rural area. So, okay, we really don't know, but you say that, so on the lighting plan, you say you have installed some of the new lights. We don't know where they are. I'm trying to think if I can reach.
No.
I thought you just said that.
We have not installed
May I share my screen
any.
Yes, go ahead.
to just show the image, and
around
maybe
the
Chris can speak to it.
Anything
Hold on,
on
Chris.
Highway 1. I think we've installed.
Okay,
So Chris, can you see the screen?
Right.
Okay,
Sure.
so the lighting plan that you
Yes,
provided here, can you see this?
So the dark dots that are labeled L.
So the L are the
new one.
the proposed lighting.
Yeah, and then the ones that are
Right. That's
Starred are the
proposed.
existing lighting. Is that correct? Yeah. Chris?
Where the stars, I can't see them. Yeah, I'm
Can you
looking
see
to see
it?
where the
I'm
stars
sorry,
are.
let me,
Oh, yes.
around
The,
the developed area.
yes, yes.
and a couple in the parking
I'm
lot.
sorry, there. That might be better.
Right. Right.
So, so these were
Yes.
your plan was transferred over to an aerial, and the blue dots are where you want to add lights based on your plan. And the red stars are where there are existing lights per your plan. Is that correct? Or have more lights been added?
Yes. We've added 3 more lights, I believe, in the
Where?
parking lot with a
On which
24.
side? The Verde Road side or the?
Towards the middle of the Verde side, but against the straw, against the growing the crops on that side, because that lacked lighting
On
for people
the
to
crop
get
side
into
or the
their
Verde
vehicles.
Road side?
The crop side,
This side.
which has its back to the highway. Yes. Mhm.
So you've added 3 lights on
And
this
that's
side
So
into the parking lot.
yes,
Got it.
into the parking lot. Yes.
So 14, 15, 16, 17. So then there's 17 existing lights now.
Right.
We can take some out if you want.
No, I mean, whatever you folks decide. I mean, I thought I was on the right track. I was coming from the north, which I should be coming from the south. I was thinking that you needed more lighting because your suggestion, but it seems like I was doing the wrong thing. We needed less lighting. So whatever you suggest we can do, we're wide open on that. Not a problem.
I'm sorry you, I confused you, and but it would have helped to wait before doing anything until we had a chance to confer again. My concern now is not knowing how many lumens these existing lights are putting out. And this relates to what I was explaining earlier. And so I had thought, well, okay, if we were just to say in the condition of approval that the original 13 lights could stay, even though it's unknown, and not add the new ones, but now there's three, we don't really know where they are. So I'm kind of at a loss how to fix the condition of approval. I would like to
Well, I have this
add
suggestion.
a
Can I make a suggestion?
curfew that if these are as bright as they sound like, that they don't, it'd be better if they weren't on all night or could be dimmed later into the night? Sorry, go ahead.
They have remote control.
Okay.
They come with a remote control that you can turn them on and off. Or if there's any more doubt, we can remove them. It's entirely up to you, whatever you suggest.
Commissioner Ketchum, are you also looking maybe as a motion sensor as opposed to
No,
limiting hours?
no, I don't. Well, I guess there's two issues here. What lighting is on for the people there at the event, and then what lighting the farmer needs to have for his own needs. And just in the question of whether all this extra lighting that's been added for the events needs to be on all the time. It would not seem desirable to me. That's where I was going with this, but let me assess where we are in this. I think I'm asking questions of the applicant. Maybe what we should do now is to open public comment and then get back to the commission. That sound good? Okay, so we'll now have public comment on this item, and I'll turn this portion over to Ms. Lujan.
Chair, we're now opening public comment for item number 4. If your hand is raised, your name will be called. You can press *9 to raise and unraise your hand. Give it a few seconds. I don't see anybody with their hands raised at the moment.
Okay, seeing that no members of the public wish to speak, if there are no objections, public comment on this item is now closed. Staff have anything to offer at this point before we move on to our discussion?
Well, just in the, excuse me, just in the interest of trying to come to resolution on the lighting issue, I think that we are in a place where we could refine the proposed lighting plan that's been submitted by the applicant in a manner that addresses the commissioner's concerns. And to that end, if staff can be of assistance in crafting a new condition, I'd be happy to do so, but I'll wait to get further direction from the commission on that.
Okay, thanks. So we'll now move on to commissioner comments and deliberation. Who would like to start? Commissioner, Ramirez, I saw your hand first.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just going to say that, overall, I think I'm good with what has been presented to us. Let's just adjust as it has been suggested right now, that let's just come up with the resolution on the lighting and, and move it forward. That's what I would recommend at this point.
Commissioner Hanson?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I've been by your place throughout the year. Most recently, a month ago, and again in midsummer. At all times, I saw farming going on. I did farming on a 44-acre plot in Half Moon Bay, and I saw things that were consistent with what I consider is farming. Considering how the size of your lot, I can see why people may be skeptical how you do it. I did 44 acres and I starved to death. I applaud you for figuring a way of doing it. I mean, you basically have a boutique farm. It is the farming of the 1970s. When I was there, is probably half. It's those fields of flowers are gone. The fields of artichokes and Brussels sprouts are gone. Those days are. You have again a little snapshot of what was there, and basically, I enjoy going by your place every time. So, is it my interpretation that you do farming? Yes, I believe the county has satisfied whether you comply to the financial things. I'm not going to go there. If we're looking for worrying about taxes, go after the 1%ers and get some real money. Small farmers don't have it. Everything is wholesale. They sell it at wholesale. Other areas of the county to look for it. So pending issues that Lisa has, I support the findings.
You support the findings or dimming the lights or what?
I'm a support the recommendations that was in our staff report. And I just want to hear how we resolve the lighting for you.
Okay. Commissioner Gupta?
I like the project. Most of my questions, I'm satisfied with the answers. Lighting, we need to clarify that as to what we have and what we want. I am a big believer that safety is also very important. That's where I'm coming from, is that whichever lights we have, if we can satisfy the what we call lighting pollution, that we don't have lighting pollution, yes, we should work towards that. But safety is important. So much crime going on in this county, in this state, that we want to provide enough lighting, but should be controlled. I agree with Chair Ketchum that if you put a sensor on there, it would be on all night because it's dark, right? So, but maybe we reduce the number of lights that are on at that time. So that's, otherwise I'm in support of the findings and the recommendation by the staff. Thank you.
The only issue I have is with the lighting. Everything else is fine. It's awkward because I just feel confused about what the lighting plan actually is. And I guess I could differentiate between, I guess my first thought is definitely no new lighting. I could see how even as a farm, you would have the lighting around the developed area. That's not just for the commercial use. And I'm a little concerned that I don't know how bright that is, but we'll let that go. But as to adding any additional lights since we met last October, I would, where the owner seemed fine with the level of light at that point, and I would hope that we could go back to where we were a year ago, as far as the lighting, at least. Oh, and then also some kind of curfew or some kind of, I mean, it doesn't have to shut everything off, but after closing time, say a half an hour after closing time, to have the lights dimmed or whatever you can work into this to minimize the light in this rural area.
With permission from the chair, what I'd like to suggest is that we ask the applicant to agree to modify the lighting plan that's been submitted such that the lighting that will be on the site will be limited to the existing lights within the developed area. And those lights should be turned off half an hour after the closing time of the event would be my recommended lighting plan. Mr. and Mrs. Gounalakis, is that acceptable to you?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, it is. I like, if I may add, there's 2 lights that are over our gates, which are entrance to the property. That's also considered, I believe, the developed area.
Yeah.
Those help us navigate when we come home at night. We like to leave them on if possible.
Yes, and I would agree that the 2 lights by the entry are both reasonable and appropriate for safety concerns.
I agree. This sounds fine to me, what you propose. Thank you. I see other nodding heads.
Yes,
Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. All right, where is it?
So does this, does Steve, does your proposal to fix the lighting condition, does that have to be included in the?
Well,
motion?
the way I'm looking at it, Chair Ketchum, is that the condition requires the applicant to submit a lighting plan that is approved by staff. And based on the conversation today, we have agreement from the applicant to revise the lighting plan such that the only new lighting that will be added beyond the existing lighting in the developed area are the 2 lights by the entry. And if that is their proposal and it's acceptable to the commission, then I don't think we need to change the condition.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So the Planning Commission recommends consideration. I'm making sure that I'm reading the right
Yes,
recommendation. Yes.
Commissioner Gupta, perhaps I can help out. I think it would be appropriate to just have a simple motion that the commission adopt the findings recommended by staff.
Okay, okay. So the Planning Commission recommends that we adopt the findings recommended by the staff. And we, do we say anything about just leaving those lighting, 2 lights, or the applicant having agreed?
No.
There's no need for that.
Not
No
needed,
need
no.
for that. Okay, so the Planning Commission recommends that that we agree with the staff's staff's findings of the project.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Chair Ketchum.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Moving on now, does anyone want a break?
Thank you.
Oh, yes, okay, let's 10-minute break. All right, see you in 10 minutes.
I'm going to mute all mics now.
Oh my.
so we can continue.
Are we all here? Let's get started. We're on regular agenda item number 5. Will staff introduce the item?
Yeah, we have owner Arborist Development, applicant Craig Aubrey, file number PLN 2015-00084, location 1061 Los Francos Road, unincorporated Portola Valley, and our project planner is Canoa Kelly. No?
Good morning, commissioners. Let me just pull up my slides really quick for you.
About your screen, can you put your screen on?
Let's see. I'm at home. I have my big screen, so I can see everything. I don't have a camera, but let me pull these up. Okay. So yes, this is item number 5. This file number PLN 2020-00356. And this is the appeal of the Community Development Director's approval of a grading permit and a tree removal permit to allow the 278 cubic yards of cut, 178 cubic yards of fill, and the removal of 7 significant trees within the footprint of the proposed home. The purpose of the grading, there's actually a house on site that will be demolished, and the grading is to allow the construction of a new 3,985 square foot single family residence on the site. Let's take a look at where it is. Here's 1061 Los Trancos Road in Portola Valley. You can see there are 2 parcels. Originally, it was 1 parcel. A certificate of compliance was approved on this parcel here on the left, and that is where the new proposed residence will be going. And here you can see the grading plan for the proposed residence. And here's the development proposal. It is actually a 3-story construction. This is an ADU in the basement in the lower level. And again, it's 3,985 square feet. And there's also the removal of 7 significant trees on site. There are 3 valley oaks, 1 redwood, and 3 bay trees within the proposed development. Here you can see the floor plans, the basement and ADU on the basement plan, the first floor there. And here is the second floor plan. Now the project meets all the R1 S83 development standards. You can see in the table, and complies with all applicable general plan policies, including soil resources, wildlife resources, and water policies. And an appeal was filed within the appeal period for the grading permit, and I wanted to go over the main points of appeal for the appellant. The full appeal letter has also been included in attachment in the staff report. So the first point of appeal is that the amount of impervious surfaces on the slope is not acceptable. The cut for the large footprint of the home does not have an adequate plan for capturing storm runoff and dissipating it because of the large amount of impervious surface. And The concern is that the concentration of water at the rear of the property will overwhelm a pit that was proposed and saturate the soil, leading to concerted flooding and other properties that are in the rear of the proposed parcel. So staff response was that the proposed home complies with all zoning development standards, and the county's drainage policy requires that post-development runoff and velocity be equal to or less than the pre-development runoff, so that no additional runoff caused by the development can cross property lines. So that's our base policy, and that's what we aim to achieve by requiring drainage plans to be submitted that we can evaluate, as well as an engineer that creates the drainage calculations that we can run to make sure that that is implemented. But upon further review by the county drainage department, that we have added a condition that they modify their drainage system so that the storm runoff and all replaced impervious surfaces on site will be appropriately detained and metered to dissipation devices. So that is based on the geotechnical advice from the geotechnical engineer, and also from our drainage department to ensure that that we can comply with our policy and that no additional runoff will cross property lines. So we've added that to condition number 20 as a condition of approval. So they will be redesigning their drainage system. And none of the plans show significant trees on adjacent properties. This is the point of appeal number 2. There are possibly significant trees that are in the rear of the property near a retaining wall, and its pilings could potentially harm trees. So a arborist report was submitted with the application that documents all of the trees on site. As you saw in the at the beginning in the overhead picture, there are quite a few trees on site. It's a very densely wooded property, and that is part of the reason that there's so many tree removals for the development. But we also have added the condition, in condition number 6, staff recommends that the arborist report be updated to include any canopies that are overhanging onto the neighbor property to make sure that those drip lines, those root systems are not impacted, and there are appropriate mitigation measures for any structures, be it retaining walls, that are going into those areas. So we've added that as condition number 6 in the conditions. So the third point of appeal is that septic drain fields from a neighboring parcel ends 5 feet from the property line in the vicinity of the new dry well that was proposed as part of the original drainage retention system. And this will cause flooding and other issues. We wanted to reiterate that the system will be redesigned and removed, and that metered surface flows are not anticipated to have significant impacts on the neighboring properties upon review by the drainage department. As it will be mimicking the natural pre-development drainage patterns. And environmental health imposes a strict setback for the infiltration features from leach lines of septic systems. The actual location of a neighboring septic system has not been verified, but the approval of that will be done by environmental health during the building permit phase. So another point was that the applicant asked that the option of pumping stormwater to the street be considered. Again, we do not, that's not our county policy to pump water into the storm drains. We want the flow of water to follow the natural drainage patterns on site and be preserved. So the drainage department has required that their drainage plan be updated, and it will comply with that policy. And lastly, the point of appeal, the engineers expressed that large fills are generally not desirable on slopes, and the geotechnical department has concerns regarding development plan and water issues. So there was a little bit of confusion about where this came from. There was a drainage comment in December that just said that the drainage plan was inadequate and they had to update their plan. But again, after further review of the drainage plan has been conditioned to be consistent with the geotechnical engineer's recommendations, while still complying with the county drainage policies. And then these are if you wanted to just kind of have a review of the two conditions, these are the two conditions that we've proposed, requiring that an arborist report be updated to identify all portions of the tree canopy that overhang into the subject property. And then here's condition number 20, regarding the revised drainage plan that we're requiring for the site. The California Environmental Quality, the project's exempt under section 15303 related to the construction of small structures, including single-family residences in a residential zone. So all the required grading findings can be made and tree removal findings. The project has been reviewed and found to be in compliance with the San Mateo County grading ordinance. So staff's recommendation is that the Planning Commission deny the appeal and uphold the Community Development Director's decision to approve the grading and tree removal permit application by making the required findings of approval, subject to the conditions of approval included in attachment A and that of the staff report, and that includes those two conditions that were mentioned in the presentation. So that concludes the presentation. We'll open up to questions.
Thank you. Do commissioners have questions for staff? We'll start with Commissioner Gupta.
Thank you for your presentation, Kanwar. I came across in the staff report that there are, of course, the applicant is applying for removal of 7 significant trees, but there are 3 other trees that are being removed. And they are not documented. Is my understanding correct?
So there are other trees that will be removed that are not significant, but we've documented the significant trees that are covered under our tree ordinance for you.
Okay, so they are not significant. Okay, great. Are there any history of landslides in this general area and in this parcel? Yes,
there are some landslides. There's some history of landslides in the area. There was a geotechnical report that was submitted with the application that was approved by our geotechnical department, and it did have to address that the possibility of landslides in the area.
Sorry, I missed that. You said it did address or it did not?
It did. It did. The
did.
geotechnical report that was included in the attachments, it addressed the possibility of landslides and any mitigation measures that needed to be implemented to the project for their foundation and for development.
Okay. And I don't remember the details. I did kind of glance through it. Was there any, how recent was the last landslide, if there was any?
So these are old landslide deposits that they were reviewing as in the geotechnical report. There was no identification of any current landslide activity.
Okay. Okay. All right. And my last question is, I think I saw some drawings with some earthquake faults shown on the drawing. Is this property at any risk for earthquakes?
No, I did not. Where did you see the fault lines? In what report?
Probably in the geotech, like it was drawn there. I think it was the San Andreas fault. In the geotechnical report.
I can let me look that up for you. One sec. I can look
Well,
that
and
up.
I think it's fair to say that all properties in California are at somewhat of a risk of earthquake. And so certainly if there's a particular risk here, that's going to need to be addressed in the foundation design at the building stage. But yeah, if there's something specific about this property in the report that you'd like to understand in greater detail, we can see what Canoa finds.
Yeah, no, right. Only if somebody knows about it. Yeah, I would briefly, if somebody could address that, if there is one. No, I'm looking at page 5 of the report. Not sure. Yeah, just because there's concern about a little bit of landslides, if there's any tremor, yes, it may set something. So that's what my concern was.
So yeah, the location is within all of Los Trancos Woods is within a fault zone, and there are fault traces that go through the rear of the property. It's actually on the right parcel. It goes through the tip of the right parcel, but all of this area is in a fault zone.
Okay, so this this new development that's taking place is in the other part of the 2 parcels?
So this is the slide here. You can see there are just 2 parcels here. The entire area and the fault trace goes through this parcel here.
Okay, and that is not being disturbed?
No, that's not being developed at this time. And if it will be in the future.
Okay, all right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Hanson?
I don't have any real questions. I read everything. Again, I have the same questions about the Arborist report. Remember, if dealing with fault zones, it isn't a square inch of a property. Those rift zones are actually very broad, and the whole area is shattered. But that's the whole Bay Area in general. There is, It is a known risk. And all these homes, from my home to your home to this home, have potential problems, some which we do know about, some we don't know about. But because a portion of the quote quack lies in a corner of that parcel, it isn't that tight. It is miles wide, really. It is finely ground. It is all sorts of parallel stuff. So yeah, I shouldn't be making these comments, but I really have no questions.
Oh, did you say you do? Were you signing off? I didn't catch that.
Yes, I'm done.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Yeah, I don't have any questions per se. Just to make a quick comment that, you know, normally when I look at these things, I pay particular attention to the geotechnical report just to, you know, see what they're recommending. I think this particular report was very extensive on covering all the potential hazards and the solutions that, you know, that this particular project should have. And I don't see any issues as long as we follow the geotechnical recommendations, and you know, with the added conditions. I think overall, I think it's a good project. No questions at this time.
Thank you. So at this point, does the appellant, Mr. Stefsik, would you like to speak? I see he's in the attend. Oh, he has his hand.
Yeah, let me go ahead and move him over. Hold on a second. There you go.
Mr. Stefsik, I think you're muted. Would you like to speak at this point?
Yes, I would. Can you see me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
There we go. Can you see me now?
No, we're looking at the map. Somebody is sharing their screen.
Can you take it off share screen, please?
Oh, we can see
Okay.
you.
Hi. No. You know, the condition number 20, I'm in agreement with. I spoke to Mr. Aubrey recently and notified him as such for the metered detention to mimic the flows.
Sorry.
Hello? Anyway, yes, Mr. Aubrey and I have come to agreement on what he is willing to do to satisfy me as far as the water runoff, which is my concern. You guys have made a recommendation or conditional approval number 20 with that. I'm good with that. On the Arborist Report number 6, it says there's a couple trees along a shared property line. I also spoke to Craig about this recently, and or Mr. Aubrey, excuse me, and there's a couple trees that are on my side of the fence and a couple on the neighboring property, number 1035 Los Trancos, and we were concerned that the retaining wall may impact the root system of the tree, and so what Kanoa just said, he mentioned when he verbally read the Arborist Report, he said canopy and root system, where in the Arborist Report, it just says canopy. So maybe those trees could be accounted for because they may be on Mr. Aubrey's property to begin with, but were unaccounted for in the arborist plan at all. So what I'm saying is the neighbor, Jorge, who has photos that were submitted to Kanoa recently, and I'm sure he'll share those again if he can, or Kanoa will. We'd like to make sure those trees are unharmed if possible, but mainly accounted for in the arborist plan. And condition number 6 should be amended if it could be, to try to pay attention to the root system, because not all canopies equate to root spread. Redwoods being an example. But other than that, Mr. Aubrey and I are good, and I agree with what the county has concluded as far as how to take care of the drainage. So that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask the applicant if he wishes to speak, and then commissioners can ask questions to either of the two following that. Mr. Aubrey, would you like to speak?
Yes. I'd like to start off by saying that the soils engineer, Lucas Ottoboni, who's one of the principals at Romig Engineers, he's been on the line patiently, and he has to leave in like 5 minutes. So can I defer off to him first? Because he had a few things he wanted to mention regarding the property. I think he has his hand raised. Is that okay?
That sounds all right.
Okay.
Lucas, are you there?
Hold on. Moving him over now.
Lucas,
you're the, hi, Lucas.
Can you guys hear me here?
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Craig. Yeah, thank you guys. I guess I mostly agree with everything. I just wanted to make a couple comments on some of the appellant's concern, or just to quell that. There is a section in our report where we talk about not wanting to place fill on slopes, but I just wanted to be clear that that's like an unsupported fill. So we just don't want, people dumping soil on the slope. But if it's supported by a retaining wall, that's a slightly different. We'll look at that much differently. And I guess as far as I just wanted to make one, I guess quickly for the earthquake stuff, and yeah, our investigation was done alongside a geologist to evaluate specifically if there are any traces of the San Andreas Fault running through the property, which we concluded that there were not. And also, as one of the commissioners mentioned, maybe an earthquake triggering a landslide, and that's definitely something that needs to be vetted out in Los Trancos, and that was done in our report and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I think as far as natural hazards go, yeah, the risk is always there, but at this particular site, there's nothing, there's nothing specific that we found or concluded that would be problematic. I would just make one comment to Kanoa and the county, and that's that some of these comments regarding the dry well and why we're at the metered release, it came from the peer reviewing geologist for the county. And that's fine. I think we mostly agreed, and it seems like it's in a good spot with the metered release. But I would just suggest that the county maybe speaks with them about Los Trancos, because the reviewing geologist has a concern that the entire Los Trancos area basically is an ancient landslide, and I was just wondering if it would be beneficial for the county to start to look at routing water into the storm drain, in Los Trancos, if that makes some sense. And I don't know if that came across clear. But anyways, I guess, yeah, it seems like this parcel landed in a good spot. We can work with the civil engineer to get that going to meet the condition. But just in a broader sense, it seems like if the reviewing geologist is concerned at all about water in Los Trancos, it seems like the county may want to look into revising their ordinance about discharge into the storm system. It seems like that would be the only way to really get water, off of this area. So anyways, I guess that's all. Yeah, I think the site is safe and all that from a hazards perspective, and the project is in a good place. But I did just want to make that comment to Kanoa and the county.
Okay, and I also wanted to add, thanks, Lucas. I wanted to add that there have been extensive investigations into the soil on the site, including and I'm a licensed general contractor. I've never actually had to do this, take measures to the extent that we've taken on the site. There were 4 borings taken down to, I think, a depth of 20 to 30 feet and at different locations on the property. And of course, all the soils were analyzed, and we hit refusal, which means we hit terra firma at the bottom of each of those borings, if I'm correct on that. And then the other thing we did, which was very extensive, was, and Lucas was the lead engineer on this, we were required to dig a trench, which was close to 100 feet long down the length of the property and as deep as 12 feet deep. And the engineers, of which I think there was somewhere around 8 engineers, including the peer review engineers from Cut and Shires, got down in the trench and looked closely at the soils, examined it. And as Lucas mentioned, I was told that did not find any landsliding and did not find any trace of the fault there. So we did extensive work on the soils. I think I'm saying the truth in that it's a very stable soils base for the foundation.
Okay, is that now at this point, do commissioners have questions for the appellant and the applicant? Let's start with Commissioner Hanson.
I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Gupta.
It's a more curiosity question. I'm sure you are familiar with, you probably know more about what's going on with this Millennium Tower boring in San Francisco. Is that like it continued to sink after they started the boring and they stopped it? I'm no expert, but I just read that in the news. Is that something that's applicable or something to be considered for your development, your property?
I can answer that on. Yeah, I can answer that on behalf of Craig. No, unfortunately, our industry is getting a little blacklisted because of this Millennium Tower. But no, the conditions are entirely different. It's in San Francisco, where there's old earthquake fill and very soft deposits close to the bay. And no, it's not at all similar. We're in a hillside environment with bedrock, and so yeah, it's one of those places where the Bay Area is so variable, and this is a good parallel showing that we've got hillside stable areas with rock, and then we've got really soft marginal areas along the bay, and so they're not connected at all in terms of phenomena or what could happen, or it's nothing like that. Yep.
Thank you for answering my question.
No worries.
No further question.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Yeah, I don't have any questions either.
Okay, thank you very much from the appellant applicant, and we'll move on now to public comment on this item, and I'll turn this portion over to Ms. Lujan. Amos, I think you're on mute.
On mute. I said my whole spiel.
Oh, dear.
That's okay. So I have Jorge Vasquez with his hand raised. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your mic, and you can begin speaking. You have 2 minutes. Jorge?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. I want to thank the Planning Commission and staff for listening to Mr. Sefcik's appeal. We had 2 concerns about the project, drainage and the trees. And I think the drainage issues have been properly addressed by the additional conditions to the grading permit. Chad discussed the tree issue, and I sent a message, which is now a part of the administrative record, which shows the trees that we were concerned about along the east portion of the property, of Mr. Aubrey's property, and the trees that might be impacted by the retaining wall. And so we're hoping that those will be considered in the revised Arborist report. A couple of people had questions about the faulting in the area. So the entire area of Los Trancos Woods is an ancient landslide. And there are smaller landslides that exist around the area. The geotechnical report for the property, which was done by Romig engineers, discussed this, and they trenched along there because of the proximity to the San Andreas Fault. Traces of the 1906 rupture are only tens of meters west of the property. And it's typical to have that kind of trenching in properties that are that close to what were young ruptures. The one thing, though, is that in the Romig report, there is the potential where there's the hill slope on the back part of the property that's steep. It's possible that represents the old scarp of a landslide, and that was mentioned in the report. But I do think that the retaining wall and the grading is probably going to, help to stabilize that. Anyway, but I want to thank you guys for thoughtfully considering Chad's appeal and coming up with additional conditions to permit. Thank you.
Thank you. I do not see any more hands raised for this item, Chair.
Seeing that no additional members of the public wish to speak, if there are no objections, public comment on this item is now closed. Now we will move on to commissioner comments and deliberation. Commissioner Hanson.
It's kind of nice to see the neighbors coming together before this meeting and working out a very amicable solution. And I just want to be clear that we're going to be also being concerned about the tree roots going forward. Did I see all the heads agree to this?
Yes, Commissioner Hanson, staff will be updating the condition to reflect that.
Great, then I see that we've resolved this and we can move forward.
Commissioner Gupta.
Project looks good to me. I echo Commissioner Hanson's comment about reaching an agreement between the neighbors. That's great. That's great. Since we live close to each other, it's nice to stay friendly there. So I'm for the project. Looks good to me. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Not much to add other than, it's always great to see when there's a resolution and, we all can come to an agreement on this thing. So for me, it looks like a really good project. So I'm good to go.
And I agree with what you've all said too as well. Great to have have this all sorted out ahead of time. May I have a motion?
If we can get the words up. I so move that the Planning Commission deny the appeal and uphold the Community Development Director's decision to approve the grading and tree removal permit application, County File PLN 2020-00356, by making the required findings and of approval subject to the conditions of the approval included in attachment A of the staff report. And the comments.
I'll second.
And just to be clear, that staff has amended the condition in attachment A to ensure that the revised arborist report addressed the trees along the property line of concern.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Chair Ketchum.
Aye. Thank you. Motion approved 4-0. Thanks, everybody. We'll move on now to the director's portion of the meeting.
Yes, thank you all. And good afternoon, commissioners. Since it's coming on lunchtime, I'll keep it quick. And the only correspondence I wanted to report to you is I believe you've received notice of a pre-application workshop coming up. That workshop has actually been canceled. There's some issues that the underlying property owner and the proposed developer need to resolve. So they've put that on hold, and we'll inform the interested parties of that. I just wanted you to be aware of that. With regard to the next meeting, currently we only have one item on the agenda. It's a coastal development permit for a new domestic well and some drainage improvements on a property in San Gregorio. And the purpose of the well and the drainage improvements is to facilitate future development of a home on the property, which would be subject to a different application. So the only thing I wanted to note in the director's report is to, as you observed in today's revised agenda, we've got a little bit of a different scenario to face with regard to conducting our meetings remotely, and that's the change in the governor's ruling on Brown Act. And so we're at this point, as we have in the past, following the lead of the Board of Supervisors in terms of being, at least from a staff's perspective and recommendation, being in agreement with the determination that the conditions are still of high enough concern to continue with the remote meetings. And so based on the new landscape, you will be seeing as a regular item on the consent agenda the resolution that needs to be adopted in order for us to continue to meet remotely. So I just wanted to give the commission some background on that and give you an opportunity to ask any questions you may have about it.
I had a question that, are we going to have to re-approve this remote meeting?
Yes, it will appear on every consent calendar.
Everyone. Okay.
While this remains in effect. Tim, do you have anything you want to add or clarify?
Technically, the law requires that you re-adopt at least every 30 days or do a new adoption. We don't want to get in a situation where if we cancel a meeting for lack of business, that we fall out of sync and fail to make the adoption in enough time to be able to agendize our next meeting. It's still very, we can always fix a problem if we get out of sync, but mostly we just really prefer to have a lot of advance warning if it were the interest of the commission to not make the findings and begin meeting again in person, because we'll have to set up an online meeting and we will continue to do so as long as the resolutions are being adopted. But it would be a little awkward for you to defeat the resolution And then we'd have to potentially recommend adjourning the meeting and reconvening in person. So give us at least one meeting's worth of advance notice before you decide that you want to get back to in-person meetings.
Okay.
And I'll continue to keep you
Sounds good.
posted on any developments occurring at the board level that we might want to take into consideration.
Great.
So that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Steve or updates from the?
None.
No.
Okay, seeing no further business, the meeting is now adjourned.
Great.
Thank you all.
Thank
See you guys
all.
next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
Adjourned.